On a cold, stormy night, the sound of sirens filled the air. Thick, dark smoke rose into the sky, and orange flames lit up the small neighborhood. People stood outside their homes, watching in fear as a house burned. The fire was growing fast, eating away at the walls, windows, and roof. Inside that house, a young boy named Liam was trapped. Liam was only 6 years old. He was alone in his room, sitting on the floor, shaking with fear. Smoke poured under the door, and the heat made it hard to breathe. His eyes watered, and his small hands covered his face. He could hear the fire crackling, the glass breaking, and the wood snapping. He called out for his mom and dad, but no one answered. Outside, firefighters rushed to the scene. One of them was a brave woman named Emily Carter. Emily had been a firefighter for years, and she knew what to do in dangerous situations. When she arrived, a neighbor ran to her, shouting that a little boy was still inside. Without wasting a second, Emily grabbed her gear and ran straight into the burning house. The smoke was thick, making it almost impossible to see. Emily's heart pounded as she moved through the house, calling out, "Liam, Liam, where are you?" She knew she didn't have much time. The fire was getting worse by the second, and the house could collapse at any moment. Upstairs, Liam was coughing, his little body weak from the smoke. He tried to crawl under his bed to escape the heat, his tiny fingers trembling. Just when he thought he couldn't hold on any longer, he heard a voice. It was Emily. "Liam, it's okay. I'm here to help you," she called again, following the faint sound of his coughs. Emily dropped to her knees and crawled through the smoke, her eyes stinging. She finally spotted a small hand sticking out from under the bed. Without hesitation, she reached out, grabbing Liam gently. He was light, his face pale and wet with tears. She picked him up and held him close, wrapping the wet cloth around his face to help him breathe. Carrying Liam in her arms, Emily made her way back through the burning house. The heat was intense, and the walls shook as parts of the ceiling began to fall. She moved as fast as she could, dodging falling debris. Every second felt like forever. At last, Emily burst out of the front door, still holding Liam tight. The crowd outside cheered, and Liam's parents rushed forward in tears. Emily carefully placed Liam into the arms of the paramedics, her own face covered in ash and sweat. That night, one brave woman saved the little boy's life. And though Liam was too young to understand it then, this moment would stay with him forever. A bond had been formed in the middle of that fire, one that would last a lifetime. After the fire, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Liam. She visited him in the hospital the next day, feeling a strange pull in her heart. The little boy she had saved was lying in a bed, still weak and coughing from the smoke, but he was alive. That was all that mattered. Liam's parents were there too, both looking exhausted but relieved. They thanked Emily over and over, their eyes full of gratitude. But Emily just smiled and shook her head. "It's what I'm here for," she said softly, though inside she felt something more, something deeper. She wasn't just his rescuer anymore. She felt like a protector, a part of Liam's life in a way she hadn't expected. The days that followed were filled with visits. Liam's condition slowly improved, and Emily came by as often as she could, bringing him small toys or books to help pass the time. She didn't know why, but every time she saw him, it felt like she was doing more than just helping him heal physically. There was something else she was giving him, a sense of comfort, safety, and maybe even hope. Liam, for his part, didn't seem scared of the fire anymore. He looked up to Emily as a hero, but it was clear that she had become more than that to him. He would talk to her for hours, telling her about his favorite cartoons or asking her about her job as a firefighter. Emily listened patiently, smiling as he spoke. She had never thought she'd be so close to a child who wasn't even her own. One afternoon, as Emily sat beside his bed, Liam grabbed her hand. His little fingers were warm and soft. "Emily," he said, his voice small and quiet, "when I grow up, I want to be like you. I want to help people too." Emily's heart swelled. She squeezed his hand gently and smiled. "You don't have to be a firefighter to help people, Liam," she told him. "Just being kind, being there for others when they need it, that's what matters most." Liam's eyes brightened. "I'll remember that," he said, nodding seriously. As the weeks went by, Liam was able to go home, and life began to return to normal for both him and Emily. But the bond they shared didn't fade. Emily would check in on him from time to time, always keeping an eye out for how he was doing. And Liam, although still a young boy, never forgot the woman who had pulled him from the fire that night. As he got older, Liam's admiration for Emily grew. She was not just a firefighter to him anymore. She was a symbol of courage and kindness, a reminder of the night he was saved. He thought about her often, even as he moved to a new city with his family. And though they were no longer in touch, Liam carried a promise with him that he would one day find a way to repay the woman who had given him a second chance at life. Years passed and Liam grew up. The small boy who had been saved from the fire became a young man with big dreams. His family had moved to another city, far from the place where that terrible night had happened. But the memory of Emily never left him. She had saved his life, and in doing so had given him a future. As Liam got older, he thought about her often. She was more than just the firefighter who rescued him. She was a symbol of everything he wanted to be: brave, strong, and kind. Liam worked hard in school, determined to make something of himself. His family wasn't rich, and there had been struggles along the way, but Liam never gave up. He focused on his education, and by the time he was in his late teens, he had decided what he wanted to do with his life. He wanted to build things, create something that would last. He started working part-time jobs, saving every penny he could, and when he turned 20, he used his savings to start a small construction business. It wasn't easy at first. There were a lot of sleepless nights worrying about paying bills and getting enough clients. But Liam didn't let that stop him. He kept pushing forward, and slowly, his company began to grow. With each successful project, his confidence grew as well. By the time he was in his late 20s, he was running a thriving real estate business. He had made it. The boy who had been saved from a burning house was now a successful entrepreneur, but he never forgot how it all began. One evening, as Liam sat in his office looking over plans for a new development, a thought suddenly struck him. It had been years since he'd seen Emily, since he last thought about the fire. But now, as his life was taking off, he realized he owed her more than just a thank you. He owed her everything. Without Emily, he might not have had the chance to build the life he had now. The idea hit him hard. He would find a way to repay her, to honor the woman who had saved him. But how could he do something that would truly show his gratitude? Liam began to think back to the fire station, the old building where Emily had worked all those years ago. He wondered if it was still standing. Was it still in use, or had it been forgotten, just like so many other things in the past? Liam's curiosity grew, and he decided to visit his old neighborhood. He wanted to see the fire station again, to see if it was still there. He didn't know what he would find, but he hoped that maybe, just maybe, he could do something special for Emily, something that would show her how much she meant to him. When he arrived in his hometown, the familiar sights brought back memories of his childhood: the park, the old school, and of course, the fire station. But when he drove by the station, he was shocked to see that it looked run down, almost abandoned. The once proud building was now crumbling, the windows boarded up, and the paint peeling off the walls. Liam's heart sank. This was the place where it all started, where Emily had risked her life to save him. And now it was falling apart. A wave of determination washed over him. He knew then that he had to do something. This wasn't just about repaying a favor. It was about honoring a legacy, Emily's legacy, and he would make sure it lived on. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that he had to do something. Seeing the fire station in such bad condition was a wake-up call. It wasn't just a building to him. It was a symbol of everything Emily had sacrificed. She had spent years working there, saving lives, putting herself in danger every day. And now, the place that had once been her home away from home was falling apart. Liam knew he couldn't just ignore it. He had to find a way to help. He spent the next few days digging into the history of the fire station. He learned that it had been around for decades, a vital part of the community. But over time, the neighborhood had changed, and the station had slowly lost its importance. Most of the firefighters who worked there had retired, and the few who were still around had been reassigned to other locations. The building itself was now a shadow of what it had once been. The city was planning to shut it down for good, a decision that would mark the end of an era. Liam couldn't let that happen. He knew this was his chance to do something meaningful, not just for Emily, but for the whole community that had supported him when he was a child. He spent hours making phone calls, meeting with city officials, and talking to other firefighters who had worked at the station. The more he learned, the more determined he became. He couldn't just save the building. He wanted to turn it into something that would honor Emily and everything she had given to the job. It took a lot of effort, but eventually, Liam managed to arrange a meeting with the city council. He explained his vision for the fire station, how he wanted to preserve it, not just as a building, but as a center for community safety and education. He wanted to turn it into a place where kids could learn about fire safety, where young people could get involved in volunteer work, and where people could come together to support each other. It was a big idea, one that would take time and money, but Liam was committed to making it happen. As the weeks passed, Liam worked tirelessly to make his dream a reality. He contacted old donors, raised funds, and even started to gather a team of volunteers. He wanted to make sure that this project wasn't just about money, it was about the people, the legacy of the station, and most importantly, the woman who had saved his life all those years ago. He knew Emily deserved something special, and he was determined to give it to her. The work was hard, and there were plenty of setbacks along the way. There were moments when Liam wondered if it was all worth it, but every time he thought about Emily, about how she had been there for him when he was too small to save himself, he pushed through. He knew this was his chance to repay her, and he wasn't going to give up. One evening, after months of hard work, Liam stood in front of the fire station. The building had been cleaned up, the walls painted, and new equipment had been brought in. It wasn't finished yet, but it was a start, and that was enough for Liam. He could already see the changes taking place, and he felt a sense of pride in what he had done. But there was still one thing left to do. He had to tell Emily. The day had finally arrived. After months of hard work and planning, Liam was ready. The fire station was almost completely transformed. It wasn't just a building anymore. It was a place that was filled with purpose. The walls had been painted with bright colors, the equipment was updated, and spaces were being created to teach kids about fire safety and emergency preparedness. It was starting to feel like home again, just like it had when Emily was there. Liam stood in front of the building, taking it all in. There were still a few finishing touches to be made, but everything was coming together. The place that had once seemed run down and forgotten now looked like a place of hope and promise. He had kept his promise to himself, and he was proud of what he had accomplished. But there was one thing left to do. He needed to invite Emily to see it all. He hadn't spoken to her in years, but he knew she had retired from the fire department. He tracked down her contact information, took a deep breath, and dialed her number. His heart raced as the phone rang, and he wondered how she would react. Would she remember him? Would she be surprised by what he had done? The phone clicked, and a voice he hadn't heard in so long answered. "Hello." "Hi, Emily, it's Liam, the boy you saved all those years ago." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Liam could almost hear the surprise in her voice. "Liam, is that really you? My goodness, it's been so long." They talked for a few minutes, catching up on life and the changes that had happened over the years. Then Liam got to the point. "I've been working on something, Emily, something that I want you to see. It's the fire station. I've been trying to bring it back to life. Make it something that honors what you and the other firefighters did there." Emily was silent for a moment, and Liam held his breath. Finally, she spoke. "You did that for me. You saved the fire station." "Not just for you," Liam replied, his voice full of emotion. "For everyone who ever walked through those doors. But yes, especially for you. I want you to see it, Emily. I want you to see how we've turned it into something that will help future generations." There was a long pause, and Liam wondered if he had said too much. But then Emily spoke again, her voice soft but filled with warmth. "I don't know what to say. You've done something incredible, Liam. I can't believe it." "Would you come see it?" he asked, his voice full of hope. "Of course," Emily replied. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." Liam hung up the phone, his heart racing. He had done it. Emily was coming. He couldn't wait to see the look on her face when she saw what he had done. This was it. This was his chance to show her how much she meant to him, and how much her courage had meant to a whole community. Everything had led to this moment, and Liam couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for the woman who had changed his life. The day Emily arrived at the fire station, Liam could hardly contain his excitement. He had been waiting for this moment for so long, imagining how she would react when she saw the changes he had made. As her car pulled into the parking lot, his heart raced. This wasn't just about fixing the building. It was about showing Emily that her bravery had made a lasting impact on his life and on the community. He stepped outside, waiting by the entrance, watching as Emily got out of her car. She looked different than he remembered, older of course, but still the same strong, calm presence he had always admired. Her eyes scanned the building, and for a moment, Liam saw a flicker of recognition in her gaze. He couldn't tell if it was surprise or disbelief, but he could see that she was trying to understand what she was seeing. "Emily," he called out, waving his hand. She looked over and smiled when she saw him standing there waiting. "Liam," she said, her voice warm and full of surprise. "I can't believe it's really you. I didn't expect to see you here today." Liam walked toward her, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. "I've been working on this place for a while. I wanted you to see it, to see what I've done." Emily stepped closer, her eyes still scanning the fire station. "You've done all this?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "It looks different." "Different in a good way, I hope," Liam replied with a grin. He could see that she was taking it all in, trying to piece together what had happened. The once dilapidated building was now bright and inviting, with new signs, fresh paint, and a welcoming atmosphere. It was clear that Liam had poured his heart into it. "Come inside," Liam said, motioning for her to follow him. "There's a lot to show you." As they walked through the front door, Emily's eyes widened. The station had been completely transformed. The old equipment was gone, replaced by modern tools and displays that showcase fire safety and emergency preparedness. Walls were adorned with educational posters, and there were classrooms set up for local kids to learn about fire safety. Everything was carefully planned, and it was clear that this was more than just a fire station. It was a place for the community to come together. "This is amazing," Emily whispered, her voice full of awe. "It's not just a station anymore. It's a place that's going to help so many people." Liam smiled, proud of what he had accomplished. That was the goal, to make sure this place continues to serve the community, just like it always has. But now it's a place where people can learn, grow, and stay safe. A legacy, really. They continued walking through the building, and Liam could see that Emily was starting to get emotional. He knew she was remembering the years she had spent here, the lives she had saved, and the memories she had made. She had dedicated so much of herself to this job, and now it was all being honored in a way she hadn't expected. Finally, they reached a room at the back of the station, one that Liam had saved for last. He opened the door, revealing a small exhibit dedicated to the history of the fire station and its heroes, especially Emily. There were pictures of her, old uniforms, and awards she had received throughout the years. "This is for you," Liam said softly, watching her reaction. Emily stepped inside, her hand gently touching the framed photographs. She was silent for a moment, then turned to Liam, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. This is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done for me." Liam felt his chest tighten. "You saved my life, Emily. I just wanted to make sure you knew how much that meant. And now this place will help people for years to come, just like you did." Emily smiled, her eyes full of gratitude and love. "Thank you, Liam. You've given me something more than I could ever have imagined." And at that moment, Liam knew that everything he had done had been worth it. Not for recognition, not for thanks, but to show one person how much their kindness could change a life forever. The days after Emily's visit were filled with an overwhelming sense of fulfillment for Liam. Seeing her reaction to the fire station was more than he had ever hoped for. She was proud, touched, and deeply moved by what he had done. It wasn't just the building he had saved. It was the spirit of everything she had stood for throughout her career as a firefighter. The fire station began to take on a life of its own. Local families started visiting, and schools lined up for field trips to learn about fire safety. It wasn't just a place where firefighters worked. It was a hub for the community, a place where people came to feel safe and educated. Liam knew that this transformation was only possible because of the lessons he had learned from Emily. Lessons about courage, service, and sacrifice. Soon after, Liam received a call from a local news station. They had heard about the fire station's transformation and wanted to do a feature on it. The story of a young boy who had been saved from a fire and then went on to save the station was too good to ignore. Liam agreed, and within a few days, the crew arrived to film. When the camera crew came in, Liam couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He had never been in the spotlight before, but he knew this wasn't about him. It was about the work, the community, and most of all, the impact Emily had on his life. She was the real hero here, and he wanted to make sure everyone knew that. As the interview began, Liam spoke about the fire station's history, how it had shaped the community, and how Emily had inspired him to act. He talked about the difficult moments he faced as a child, trapped in that burning house, and how he had never forgotten the woman who had saved him. He told the reporters that this project wasn't just about repairing a building. It was about honoring a person, someone who had selflessly given so much for the safety of others. The reporters were visibly moved as Liam spoke, and when they asked him how he felt about all the changes, he smiled. "It feels like a new beginning," he said. "This station is not just a building. It's a place where future generations will learn, grow, and remember the importance of helping others." After the interview, the story aired on the local news, and it quickly gained attention. Soon, people from nearby towns were visiting the fire station, eager to see the transformation for themselves. Local businesses donated more resources to keep it running, and the fire station became a cornerstone of the community once again. But Liam wasn't done yet. He still had one more surprise planned for Emily. He had been working quietly behind the scenes, gathering more support and finding ways to expand the fire station's reach. He wanted to make sure that Emily's legacy would be felt not just in the community, but far beyond it. There was still so much he wanted to do, and he knew that he couldn't stop until the fire station became a symbol of hope for as many people as possible. It wasn't just about repaying a debt anymore. It was about creating something that would honor Emily's dedication for years to come. And as Liam watched people walk through the fire station every day, he knew that she had helped shape more lives than anyone could ever truly count. Months passed, and the fire station became something more than Liam had ever imagined. It wasn't just a place to learn about fire safety. It had become a community center where people gathered, volunteered, and supported each other. Children loved the interactive fire safety lessons, while local adults signed up for volunteer programs that helped those in need. Liam watched all of this unfold with pride, but he still couldn't shake the feeling that there was more he could do. One afternoon, as Liam was walking through the station, he saw Emily sitting in one of the classrooms, talking to a group of children. Her smile was warm, her eyes full of the same kindness that had always drawn him to her. It was clear that she had found a new sense of purpose here, just as he had. Seeing her in this light, surrounded by the next generation, Megan realized how much she had shaped the community, not just as a firefighter, but as a mentor and guide. He walked up to her quietly, not wanting to interrupt her session with the kids. Emily looked up and saw him standing there. Her face lit up with a smile. "Liam," she said, her voice full of warmth. "I was just telling them the story of the fire that night. You should have seen their faces when I told them how you were the brave little boy who never gave up." Liam smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. He had always been grateful for what Emily had done, but seeing her in this new role, passing down the lessons she had learned over the years, made him feel like everything he had done had been worth it. "I'm glad you're here, Emily," Liam said softly, looking around at the classroom. "This place wouldn't be what it is without you." Emily's eyes softened. She had always been humble about her role in saving lives, but now, as she looked at the kids she was inspiring, she realized how far-reaching her impact had been. The station was more than just a building. It was a beacon of hope, and she had played a big part in that. "Thank you, Liam," she replied, her voice quiet but full of meaning. "I never expected any of this, but seeing the kids here, learning, growing, it feels like it's all come full circle. This is what it was always about, not just saving lives, but making a difference." Liam nodded. "That's exactly what you've done, Emily. You've made a difference in ways that are impossible to measure. He paused, taking a deep breath, as if preparing himself for what he was about to say. There's something I want to do, something that will make sure your legacy here lasts forever. Emily raised an eyebrow, curious. What do you mean? Liam smiled, his eyes shining with excitement. I want to create a scholarship in your name. A scholarship for kids who want to become firefighters, paramedics, or first responders. I want them to be able to follow in your footsteps, just like I did. Emily was silent for a moment, taken aback by the idea. She hadn't expected anything like this. She had always felt that her work was just part of her duty, but Liam's words touched her deeply. Liam, that's beautiful, she whispered, her eyes welling up. You don't have to do that. This place, this station, it's more than enough. No, Liam said firmly. It's the least I can do. I want to make sure that your impact never fades, that the kids who come here have the same opportunities you gave me. They need to know that kindness, courage, and selflessness will always make a difference. Emily looked around the station, her heart full. Everything she had worked for, everything she had given, was now coming full circle. Thank you, Liam, she said softly. This is more than I could have ever imagined. And as they stood there, side by side, Liam realized that in the end, the true gift wasn't just in rebuilding the fire station. It was in honoring the woman who had shown him that every small act of kindness could change the world.